The census of 2017 was the first in the history of Pakistan when there was a separate category for transgender persons. According to this census, there are around 10,418 transgender persons in Pakistan. Mind you, this is actually the number of registered transgenders. Did you know that in May 2018, Pakistan's parliament passed a bill which outlaws the discrimination against transgender persons at the workplaces? This law also accords the right of the transgender community to identify themselves as the gender of their choice on their national identification cards, passports, driver's license, and educational certificates.
My name is Jannat Ali'yi, and my preferred pronoun is she, her, hers. And I'm a trans woman from Pakistan and also part of Hijra culture. And yes, I'm an artist, performing artist, and an activist. So I introduced me as an artivist, combination of both activist and artist. So because I'm also executive director of community organization Track T. Track T means track for transgender. T for transgender, and Track T, it shows the track for transgenders. So basically we work on different like issues, transgender rights. We are also founder of first ever transgender pride, which happened first time in the history of Pakistan. And we are working on advocacy, transgender rights, activism, and capacity development. And we also empower transgenders through referral systems. Yes.
Talking about transgender as an umbrella definition, I was reading a little bit about Pakistan trans history, and I've come across different terms. Like one that I used to know is Hijra, then Khwaja, Sira, and there are other definitions. Would you please run me through what they mean, and what shall I use during this interview? What would be the appropriate term?
So, Hijra is a culture, Wajasra is a culture, but transgender is your gender identity. So, a lot of people still here, they are not clear about, gender identities and sexual orientations and what are your cultures and norms. People need to be very clear. I still remember, first time when I start working, I really appreciate. I was in Istanbul in Turkey for a gender diversity training. So it was around like 8 years ago, and that was my first time. And there was a training on gender diversity. So that training helped me out to build my own capacity. So I can also sensitize my rest of community members who are not aware of the terms and terminologies which should be used because it's about them. And and also to end stigma and discrimination which is attached with some of the terminologies and the words which they call. And I also cleared some of my, not some of, but most of my community members during sessions that how should we call ourselves, which words are respected. So Hwajasra is a very respected term, and Hwajasras were those transgender people before British colonial law, which were giving a good ranks and positions in the Mughal era before British colonial law. They were the people who were on key positions. They were in the army. They were transgender people in the army as well. And Mughals, kings and queens, they used to send their children to learn etiquettes from them. But this all, respect, and they were the only one who were allowed to go in male haram and female haram. Oh yeah, a lot of respect. But after British colonial law, Criminal Tribal Act, which said Everyone who dresses like a woman, wears hair like a woman, or performs on the streets, they should be arrested and put behind bars for several years, and they should be fined as well. So people start hiding themselves, and they engaged into begging and sex work, and these kind of resources, that because that respect was somehow lost and their lives were in danger. So that's why different terminologies came out later on. Like, people used to call them with bad names and everything. But after that, in foreign countries, these British Criminal Tribal Act was changed. But in South Asia, the impact remains same, and still sometimes we feel that there is that same impact going on. It's though we have a law, though we have every progressive steps which are going on, but still in some of the cities and some of the provinces, still transgender people are in danger. And especially when you talk about activists, there everybody's eyes are on activists. So yeah, that was Khwaja, and I would like to prefer myself as a transgender people. So most of time people call transgender as she males. They don't know what is the difference between transgender and she male. So even our community leaders who were in the provision regarding gender identity in 2009, legal gender recognition. So she also called herself head of She-Male Association. That was because of lack of education and sensitization. So yes.
So, as far as I understand, this Khwaja Sira term is coming back again. I think people owning it again. Is that correct?
Yeah, when you call in English, so we prefer to be called as transgender. But when you call about, like, in our local language like Urdu and Punjabi, so people prefer to be called as Khwaja. It's a very respected word.
Mhm.
Uh, know about, because in South Asia we have our own language which is called Farsi. If I meet with the Indian transgender or transgender from Bangladesh or Nepal, so we can understand, though we don't, if they don't speak Urdu or if I don't speak Bengali, but still we can communicate in Farsi language. So after British colonial law,
So, is it
this
like
language.
is it a Farsi language, or is it like a different version? Is it
No, it's not a Persian language, because Persian is also called Farsi language, but
Ye-
it's different.
so it is like a language unique to trans community, you mean?
Yes, Hijra community.
Hijra
What is
community. Okay, that's quite interesting because we also have a language called Lubunja. It is like,
Luguncha?
yeah, so that, original
Yeah,
trans
community
community
can
could
understand.
learn each other without any stranger knowing what is being discussed. And
Yes,
there is
even
also,
that language.
yeah,
This Farsi language was also made after British Criminal Tribal Act, so people can't understand what they're talking when they were in danger, just to escape, from that risk. So
okay.
that's how.
I'd like to know how is your community managing through these difficult times, and what are you doing as a community organization?
So I thought that rather than sitting idle, there was lockdown and there were no opportunities for the work. So, being an activist, I was feeling so much problems. So I started thinking, what about rest of my community? Because most of transgender community here in Pakistan, they are not educated. They are not on good position. They are not in the good jobs. So, and also the healthcare challenges as well. So I decided, and not only me, but my all team members, they were like there. And here in Pakistan, a lot of community organizations, they did their best. I really salute them, appreciate them. I started to help from my own pocket, and then I start connecting my and asking my family members. and then my class fellows, and then artists, and then I moved to other organization. And when I was sharing my work, and you won't believe that everybody start contacting me, directly or indirectly through pages or through calls. So it was a chain which started. So up till now, even yesterday we distributed floor packs to our disabled and the senior transgender community members, and those youth members who are very young but they don't have opportunities, so we provided them food packs yesterday as well.
And you also provide some financial support as well, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, especially because the people didn't have money to pay rent and their bills. So government announced some leverage. They gave time for 2 months to so that people can pay the bills later on. But after 2 months, again it was a burden on them because when they'll not have jobs, so the amount which they have to pay, the loan amount, that will be doubled automatically. So I was thinking this is not, I mean, good option only to give a time, but also to think that how they'll pay later on when this amount will be double and they'll be responsible more. So you can say half of the amount in their rent. Also provided some amounts for their medicines. So people who are not in good health, they can also purchase their medical, you know. Hijra is a very common term in the whole South Asia. Like it's a community supporting system which contains gurus and chelas, like your teachers who are like your father figure, and chelas are students who are like their sons and daughters. So yes, and there is a complete family structure in the Hijra and Khwaja culture. So because most of time what happens when a child is young and come out, or people observe that their child is a transgender, mostly they get them out of their homes, they throw them out. So this kind of system which is surviving since history, I mean, that has been a supporting system. There are always goods and bads in the systems, but sometimes what happens, people share the very negative things about Hijra culture, but they ignore the positive things. So because if the child doesn't obey their parents, sometimes parents give punishment, or fine them, or in some way or the other they try to stop the bad activities or that. They don't think they are like their parents, they think it's against human rights.
Guru and Chela relationship, which reminded me of post TV series like Ballroom Culture,
Yeah.
that there is a mother. Um,
Yeah, I think when I was in US, I didn't find that communities strengthening system or such culture, but maybe that exists there because I saw the post season and I was really impressed. And I said, oh, there is also this kinship system within other countries. And I heard about Africa, said there are kind of similar system like Guru-Chela system in Africa, but I didn't know about events because marriages, people don't get married here, they still have fear. So lot of muftis, they have fatwa to that allows transgender to get married, but still people have fear that what will happen later on if they'll do marry, maybe they can be in risk, so still they have fear.
so it
So
is
that's why.
illegal, excuse me, it is illegal for transgender community to get married in Pakistan, yeah? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Actually, it's not clearly mentioned it's legal or illegal, but some of the muftis, like 40, 50 muftis, once issued a fatwa that transgender people can get married, and there were
I hear you. Jannat, can you please tell us a little bit about a Supreme Court decision in 2009 that
Mm.
recognized Khwaja as a third gender? What was that decision, Supreme Court decision was about? What did it change in the transgender community?
Mm. So, some of our leader like Almas Bobby and There was Bindya Rana, Neeli Rana, Ashiji, so and Saima Bhatt. So these were some of the main people who just raised the voice to have identity after the violence cases, they start increasing. So because police were not putting and writing their FIRs against these violence cases because they had no identity, and it didn't make any sense to write a report against those cases. So just to stop this kind of harassment and violence and such cases, so this movement was started. So they allowed us to have a legal gender recognition on our NICs. But again, there was a challenge. So sometimes they were asking to bring the parents, and the parents who never accepted their child, they were not ready to go with them. And also there were a medical condition, so a lot of challenges. So to cover those gaps and challenges, that's how we started working. And I was one of the steering committee member who was in drafting this legislation in 2016 to 2017. And that's why we proposed self-perceived gender identity. And we said if a male goes and or a female goes and asks for an NIC, national identity card, so they don't need to undress and or give proof about their medical. Then why a transgender needs to undress and give a medical terminology? So we ask the question, how will you feel if somebody asks you, are you real male? I have a doubt, just prove me how, like, you can prove that you are real male or female. When we ask such question, we said the sentiments and emotions are hurt of the people. And then we also give references from Quran and different religions, so that there were a lot of meetings with Council of Islamic Ideologies and healthcare, and different stakeholders, policymakers, politicians. There were a lot of meetings and a lot of challenges. And some of the organizations who were working for transgenders, they didn't wanted transgender to sit into meeting. Just imagine. So we raised our voices, we protest, we traveled into federal from Lahore to Islamabad. It was too cold, but and self-financing. Thank God that we did our spending from our own pocket. So it was whole transgender community efforts with feminist lawyer as well. So now we can have NIC, and it's on self-perceived gender identity. And yes, but there are still gaps. Like if we get the NIC, then what about our previous educational record and work experience and travel record? So now after this law has been passed into federal level, but now after 18th amendment, there is a law that every provinces have to present their own law or bill, and or they have to present their own legislation from their own respective provinces. So we are working on Punjab legislation regarding transgender rights law. And last week we had a final consultation with grassroots level activists from different diverse areas within Punjab province. So that we can come as one voice and nobody's left behind.
Oh, that's great. So before 2009, transgender community didn't have identity cards.
Yes, before 2009, no.
And they couldn't vote in elections either because they didn't
No.
have their identity card. And
well, the objective of the 2030 Agenda is that everyone is included, that no one is left behind. The transgender population in Pakistan is a significant part of the population, but it has been left behind. So the 2030 Agenda work we've been doing is about trying to include them, to give them the same rights that all Pakistanis have.
जो अगर कोई चीज़ कम्युनिटी के लिए होती है तो वहाँ पे कम्युनिटी का होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। कम्युनिटी को लिया जाए, उनकी राय ली जाए। तो अगर राय लेगी तो हम लोग बताएंगे हमें क्या चाहिए, हमें क्या मसले हैं, हमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है। और मैं शिकेला की स्टूडेंट।
They should be given the right to report any offense or any crime against them.
15 or 20 people
they huddle together.
We have to win acceptance for this community, and we need to identify laws and procedures which do not cater to this community.
तो आप इतना कमा लेते हो कि आप अच्छी अपना
एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे, कल को तुम्हारी तो शादियाँ हो जाएंगी, तुम लोग अपने
मर्द और औरतों के लिए है वो सेम ह्यूमन राइट्स होने चाहिए।
I think this training is giving opportunity to a lot of trans community members who are from different areas.
Basically help trans community to come out in a very visible way, in a very respectful way, in which they can claim that their rights are human rights. The biggest credit goes to my community because it's all what they did. We did it, and it's like a happy moment.
The legislation.
Yes.
So you organized the first trans pride, I think, in Pakistan, didn't you?
Alhamdulillah, yeah. It was like a dream, and a lot of my community members, they also dreamed about this. They also had idea, but I tried my best to fulfill that dream and waited for the right time and did a lot of struggles to make history in Pakistan. Not only this history, but I'm also lucky and humble to be part of the first the transgender rights law, which was passed in 2018, and that is one of the most progressive transgender rights law in the world, not only in Pakistan. And I would also like to share the first ever transgender pride when we passed the law. So I think this is the right time to celebrate the law. So celebrating the law can be done in the form of pride when we celebrate our identities. So this is the right time. So my team worked out and we had a proper plan that from where we'll move, how we'll sensitize the media. We'll start with the press conference of media doesn't give it a negative direction or bad comments. So we also engage a lot of youth from the very well-renowned universities, and they joined their hands to have arrangement plan, security plan. And then we had a big show in which we awarded transgender. There were trans singers who were singing, trans actress, and a lot of our LGBTI community members as well. But yeah, when it comes to safety and security, we are now conscious about our safety and security. Some of the activists have been attacked because when people try to do out of the way something new, so in every country, it's a bit challenging. This is first time in 70 years history that we are celebrating our visibility and identity.
प्रेस क्लब से हम अलमरा की तरफ जा रहे हैं फॉर द प्राइड थिंग। और मैं इतने सालों से इतने बाहर के ममालिक की प्राइड अटेंड करती रही हूँ, बट पाकिस्तान में करने का कुछ अपना ही मज़ा है। वो फ्यूचर बहुत ब्राइट है मुझे लगता है। जिस तरह ट्रांसजेंडर एक्ट आया, इट्स वेरी कलरफुल, इट्स वेरी कि जो हम चाहते थे वो हुकूमत ने कर दिया हमारे लिए, बट अब उसको इम्प्लीमेंट कराना है और आने वाली नस्ल के लिए काम करना है और फ्यूचर बहुत ब्राइट है।
मैं हूँ ट्रांसजेंडर कम्युनिटी से, पर मैंने हमेशा औरतों पे जो जुल्म होता है उस पर भी आवाज़ उठाई है, बच्चियों के साथ जुल्म होता है उस पर मैंने बहुत आवाज़ उठाई है।
हमारा भी एजेंडा यही था कि इट्स नॉट ओनली ट्रांस प्राइड, हमारे साथ हमारे बहुत सारे कलीग्स हैं जो ट्रांसजेंडर नहीं हैं लेकिन उनकी सपोर्ट है।
ट्रांसजेंडर पीपल के साथ, क्योंकि हम ये समझते हैं कि जिस तरह किसी भी शहरी के हकूक़ हैं, ट्रांसजेंडर पीपल के भी उसी तरह से हकूक़ हैं। वो कोई एक्सक्लूसिव हकूक़ नहीं चाहते, वो इंक्लूसिव होना चाहते हैं।
आप देखेंगे कि वी आर नॉट लाइक अलोन एंड वी आर ऑल टुगेदर, एंड हमारे भी वही राइट्स हैं जो कि आम इंसानों के राइट हैं।
थैंक यू सो मच हम लोगों को ये प्लेटफॉर्म प्रोवाइड करने के लिए। सबसे पहले तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के प्लेटफॉर्म से रावलपिंडी के अंदर जो तहफ़्फ़ुज़ को आउट ऑफ क्यूरियोसिटी और ट्रांस कम्युनिटी में बहुत सी एक्साइटमेंट है इस हवाले से कि पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट में ऐसा कौन सा इदारा खुल गया है जो उनके लिए है। तो आउट ऑफ क्यूरियोसिटी, आउट ऑफ एक्साइटमेंट तहफ़्फ़ुज़ को विजिट करने के लिए मोर देन 60 ट्रांसजेंडर पर्सन यहाँ पे आ चुके हैं। उसमें से 16 जो हैं वो उनकी रिपोर्टिंग हुई है, एंड आई एम हैप्पीली शेयरिंग विद यू कि हमने सारी जो रिपोर्टिंग है उनको विद इन नो टाइम टेकअप किया है, उनको ना सिर्फ टेकअप किया है बल्कि उनको मसलों के हल की तरफ भी लेके गए हैं।
अच्छा, तो ये बताएं रीम कि आपका अभी तक का इस इदारे में एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा है? आप जाहिर है बाकी लोगों के साथ काम करती हैं, कोऑर्डिनेशन होती है इदारों में, अब आप एक
Her name is Marvia Malik, and at 21 years old, she's breaking down barriers halfway around the world for transgender people.
मेकअप का काम सीखा और काफ़ी अर्सा मेकअप करती रही सैलून्स में, और उसके बाद मॉडलिंग की ऑफ़र हुई, मॉडलिंग की मैंने। मुझे पहले फैशन इंडस्ट्री में अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ मिली तो मैंने वहाँ पे भी हिस्ट्री कायम की, एज अ शो स्टॉपर परफॉर्म किया। उसके बाद मुझे न्यूज़ मीडिया इंडस्ट्री में अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली और मैंने यहाँ पे भी हिस्ट्री कायम की।
Earlier this year, Marvia became the first transgender news anchor in Pakistan. She anchors the evening news at a television station in Lahore. Marvia left home right after high school. Her family didn't accept her identity and kicked her out. It was a friend who took her in. Marvia has become an activist in the trans rights movement in Pakistan and vows to use her position to change the attitude many Pakistanis still have towards trans people.
और हर जगह गली बाज़ारों में इवन वो कहीं पे भी जाता है उसको हरासमेंट का सामना भी करना पड़ता है, उसको हुटिंग का सामना भी करना पड़ता है, ईच एंड एवरीथिंग सबको सामना करना पड़ता है। देखें, एक बात कही जाती है कि अंधेरा जितना मर्जी हो जाए सुबह ज़रूर होती है। तो ट्रांसजेंडर्स के ये हमारे बेसिक राइट्स हैं, जितना मर्जी इनको दबाने की कोशिश की जाए ये दबेंगे नहीं और बढ़ते जाएंगे आगे, क्योंकि ये हमारे हकूक़ हैं, हम ले के रहेंगे इसे। आम मर्द और औरत को भी तो मिले हैं, हमें क्यों नहीं आखिर।
Can I also ask you a little bit about LGB? And as you said, there is a long history of Khwaja in Pakistan. What is the legality of same-sex sexual activity? Is homosexuality?
Do you know about TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah. So TikTok is very famous. If you get a chance to find Pakistani TikTok, you will see a lot of people who are boys and are interacting with boys. And there are some TV programs who are highlighting these issues. But when people get know about this, they get conscious and sometimes ban and block them. But indirectly, they are giving message for equality through somehow engagement, but not very prominent, because we can't use this terminology. And when it comes to Islamic point of view, so a lot of things even we can't say it, but you will find a lot of people, but you can't say it. Don't discuss policy, don't ask, don't tell.
Okay, that's how it is. So it is actually illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear you. Jannat, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for agreeing and meeting me on a Sunday in your busy
Yeah, but
schedule.
because I love Turkey and Istanbul, and people, they love so much Pakistani community. I just found so much love and beauty there. I still miss. I wish this COVID ends and I visit again.
Okay.
And when I come back, I'll definitely gonna ask you to help to collect and invite transgenders so that we can have a talk and session.
Oh, okay, that would be great, and I could contact some of my friends, and we could organize
please
a
do
get
connect me.
together. Mhm.
Yes,
Any last words? I'll let you go otherwise.
I think we should all help each other to have healthy, dignified, and equal life. That's really